How much fear does this team strike if you're a Celtics fan?
I don't know. And I see, because I'm a huge fan of Dame Lillard. Huge fan. I mean, Dame Lillard is one of the best players I've seen in generations. When I think about when he could have played in the 80s and his ability to take over a game, his nasty attitude, his leadership, I like the fact he's coming in with Giannis. I think it's going to be a great move. Now, what do you lose in translation? He is not the defender that Drew Holiday was. Drew Holiday was a lockdown. I'm going to score 20, but I'm going to limit my guy to 20 points or whatever. That isn't Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard can give you 40, but you might get 30 on him. So it looks good because Milwaukee didn't have to give up much. Giannis is probably going to be happy. You're catching two guys right now, in their prime. Give Portland kudos for not running the brakes off of Dame Lillard. How many times we've seen at the end of the season, we're shutting Dame down with 20 games to go. We're shutting Dame down with 15 games to go. I think he has a lot of tread on those tires, but how he fits in and how they defend defensively, that's gonna be a whole nother story because Milwaukee had at the end last year had problems scoring the basketball. Who was Dame Lillard in the fourth quarter? Let me do it.
I'll do it with you.
Dame time. So he brings the swagger. He brings the confidence. This reminds me of the Kevin Garnett trade to the Boston Celtics, except Kevin probably was a little bit older at that time.
Was he? I was going to say he might have been a year or two younger.
I think. What, younger? No.
Yeah.
Dame, how old is Dame? Dame is 30. Is 32. I think Kevin was.
He's 30, no? Or 31?
I don't know. I have to look back and check on that. But it still reminds me of that, except Kevin Garnett was bringing defense and offense and his arrogance to play with Paul Pierce and Ray and the troop that was the group that was assembled there. So, man, is this a perfect storm? Tell you what's the perfect storm for the NBA. If you are a Portland Trailblazer fan, how are you feeling today? Does this haul make you feel good? I mean, you got Simons, who's there as a guard. You lost some other pieces because you sent some of those pieces down to Phoenix. How's Phoenix looking?
Yeah.
But the odds makers have done this one thing. They have taken Milwaukee from odds the fourth best winning the championship to number one winning the championship. So are the odds makers correct? So I'm going to love this situation in Milwaukee, great town to play basketball in. But you and I have been there before.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. When you place a $5 bet, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.
That's first thoughts,
It ain't the most livable place, but look at
a whole lot to do.
But look at this. Portland wasn't the most livable place. Well, it was for excitement. Milwaukee, at least Milwaukee, you got Chicago right down the street.
That's
so,
true.
If you want to do something else, but in Portland, you were in Portland. That was essentially it. You go to Seattle from time to time, but so I don't think that lifestyle is going to change. But can you compare? I'm gonna ask you.
I'll Max. I'll never forget when the first time I was heading to Milwaukee for a series, and I go, Max, what's there to do in Milwaukee? What should I do? And you go, Josue, go to Chicago. That's what you do in Milwaukee. And I did.
During the playoffs, that's what I did. They had a train that left Milwaukee going to Chicago by the hour trip. I went to Chicago to go
An
shopping.
hour, yeah.
Now, I'll do this. How different is it in South Beach than it is in Milwaukee?
It's dark.
You're going, ooh.
It's dark. They're upset there. They're upset
I'm going to tell you this. Your basketball focus is a hell of a lot better. I mean, the sites in Milwaukee you can't compare those to Miami and South Beach with some of the people that I saw down in beautiful Miami. You just can't compare the two.
No, you can't even compare. And it's funny, Max, because when you first said that, when you first asked the question, I'm thinking about the organization. Like they're sitting right now thinking to themselves, man, like how did this happen? Like they must have thought it was a foregone conclusion that this deal was going to happen no matter what. But I never got that impression because I always felt like if that was the case, it would have happened already, right? And if you're Portland, I think this is a better deal than any type of deal you would have made with Miami because they weren't going to give you Bam. They weren't going to give you Jimmy. You know what I mean? They were trying to put those three guys together. And now at least you can walk away and say, look, we got future draft picks. We got the assets. And we also have a center in Ayton, DeAndre Ayton, who was in the finals 2 years ago. You know, you mentioned Simons. You mentioned, I was just thinking right now, Scoot Henderson, you know what I mean? You got some pieces to work with, and then you can see what you can make out of this Drew Holiday deal, which I'm sure is going to bring in even more assets and maybe a player or two, a rotational player.
Yeah, because you're right. Miami didn't have anything to give you. Miami, the best they could give you, they were saying maybe Tyler Hero.
Yeah. And the second that report came out that Portland wasn't crazy about Hero, I said, it's done. It's done because that's your centerpiece. That's the best you're going to do.
Yeah. So I think because if you are Portland, the other pieces you were able to acquire and DeAndre Ayton and Scoot. And I think that maybe when you got Scoot, all of a sudden you could say, well, Dame isn't as valuable to us now because Scoot's playing essentially the same position.
And you knew how Dame saw that, right? Like, this is, you're going to get my replacement here already. Okay. Yeah. Clearly you aren't focused the way I am in trying to get a perennial all-star into the city. I think that's exactly that. It was at that point, I'm glad you brought that up, Mac, that we saw the disconnect between what Dame was really about and what the organization was trying to do. And I think that what the organization was trying to do is not tank per se, but try to draft the best player. And even though it happened to be at the same position, that they could. And Dame didn't like that plan at all, you know?
Well, he probably didn't. But again, you have to look at your future. Dame Lillard is going to be one of the all-time greats. And now you team him up with Giannis. So you got Dame and Giannis together and Dame trying to, for the first time in his career, being able to kind of see the finals, maybe see the finals. Whereas you knew in Portland, it wasn't going to happen. He was going to get past the first round. Right. Maybe you tried talking about this. But right now, you're looking at the East, and you look at him and Giannis together. And then I think that, you also Giannis throwing that thing out like, well, I have to find out. I'm not ready to re-sign right now.
Right.
Because I don't know where this organization is going. Now you're looking at it going, well, I see where we're going. I like where we're going. So maybe Giannis says, hey, cool. You know what? I'll sign a long-term deal. So I think that everybody in this scenario is happy, except some of these teams right now in the East. Miami they just took a whack when it came to that. See my neighbor that motorcycle sound. That's my neighbor.
Harley? Yeah, Fat Boy.
Exactly what he had.
I can hear it. It sounds like a Harley.
He has a Harley outside. So I like this situation. The NBA has done itself some due diligence, some favors here, and for Dame to come there.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. When you place a $5 bet, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.